Renegade Nell. Released. All episodes released March 29th, 2024. Released on Disney. Created by Sally Wainwright. Starring Louisa Harland, Frank Delane, and Alice Kremmelberg. Rotten Tomatoes, 84. IMDb, 7.4. Welcome back to Real Reviews like always. I am your host, Lee. Today we are covering the Disney Plus original Renegade Nell. This is another one of those things that I really didn't know anything about it until I watched it. I think I saw the poster and just kind of shrugged and decided to watch it. I have never seen anything with Louisa Harland in it, so I had no opinions, so let's get into it. This show starts out explaining its basic premise in a very fun way by showing an attempted highway robbery and introducing us to Nell, our lead, who gets superpowers via a fey creature named Billy Blind. If you're really up on your lore, you will know Billy Blind from English and Scottish ballads. In this show, Billy acts almost, emphasis on almost, as a stand-in for a conscience for Nell. Let's get into acting. Louisa Harland is delightful, great facial expressions, looks like she really got into it. Frank Delane, while I am not a large fan of his character, does a good job. He really commits to the silliness, but also goes into serious where needed. Alice Kremmelberg is superb at being dark and singularly committed to a goal. But for me, the real standout, and he is in less of the show than many other characters, has to be Jake Dunn. He plays haunted and conflicted so well. Again, good facial expressions, which gets a lot across without needing to have lines. Adrian Lester also puts forth a great performance. The story here is pretty good. It is a story that mostly revolves around clearing Nell's name and all the things that go wrong along the way. Like I mentioned, Billy Blind acts as some type of conscience, and many times how something is done is dictated by him. He won't let Nell use him for powers if she is intentionally causing conflict or doing something outright illegal. This dynamic does start to shift a bit in the later half of the show, but for the most part, it is consistent. Then we have the characters involved in the upper class and their involvement with either the Jacobites or the English throne. They did a good job of layering in the stories, so everything fits together, but also everything works well together. There are also many single-episode plots that help with keeping the pacing even throughout the whole show. It never felt like anything was rushing or drawing anything out. Most of the special effects are around Billy Blind, and then some random magic here and there or throwing people long distances. Honestly, from my perspective, which is admittedly not trained, most of this show seems to be done practically, which gives it a pretty grounded feeling, even for being a fantasy historical show. Costumes look great. Some might be anachronistic, but I am no expert. Again, nothing is so jarring about it that it made me stop the show. There are minimal problems in this show in my opinion. One being the Charles Devereux plotline, which does start in the very first episode, but in the last few it pulls away from our main character and can feel a bit unsatisfying. Another being that most of the characters don't experience any meaningful development. Nell is basically the same person she was at the start, as is Charles. That point leads to probably my biggest complaint, and it is one I have with many shows. Obviously, they don't know if they are getting a second season, so they have to play it safe. But I can't stand endings that reset everything back to how it was. This does basically that. Everyone ends up in relatively the same place that they started in a pseudo-happy ending, but it would have been so much better had they used a few of the story threads to change at least one or two important things. The last big issue I have is that through several episodes of the show they hint at her sister Roxy having some sort of power. This goes nowhere. Are they planning on doing something in a season 2? Dunno, but especially towards the end they could have made some minor changes that would have made Roxy more interesting and helped conclude her arc in a more enjoyable way. Overall, I would give this one a solid 8. It is good. Even the points that I didn't like didn't ruin the show. It is certainly a show where if you go in with reasonable expectations, you won't be let down. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe for more. I tend to have at least 2 videos out per week. Next week, they will be probably Saturday and Sunday videos. Until next time.